In this video, I'm going to show you some items that I think every engineer should carry. Doesn't matter if you're in the military now, active duty, reserves, guard, or you're in the militia. These are items, a lot of these are things I actually carried when I was in the military. Stuff transitioned over into the militia and I added to it a little bit. Now we'll go from items that should be on you to items in your rucksack. First off, every person in the military, every militiaman, and definitely every engineer should have a notebook of some type and a pen. I'd recommend with your notebook, get a bigger type one, few more pages. This is not the one I currently carry. This is actually one that my grandfather carried when he was in the military many decades ago, and was given to me not that long ago to hang on to after his death. Family heirloom item. But it shows you a good size, that's why I got it out here. Good size notebook. This should be carried in your pocket. If you can't fit it in your pocket, fit it in a butt pack or in your salt pack, but it must be on you at all times. In the beginning of the notebook, either on the inside cover or the first few pages, put on there your demo calculations. Internal timber, external timber, your 3 different types of road craters, you know, the basic calculation, your 6-step problem solving format, your calculation for calculating time fuse, your steel cutting charges, all your basic demo calculations. And I would also put in there RE factors, relevant equivalency factors. You want in there at a minimum, you know, your M1 TNT, M1 dynamite, ammonium nitrate, C4s. You want block through to ribbon and sheet. And if you're in the militia and you could potentially use civilian type explosives, look this stuff up online. Find out what is the RE factor for aminol. What is the RE factor for Comp B and A6, so whatever can be found in your area with mines and highway crews when they do blasting. You know, even some HME, homemade explosives. Try to find some RE factors on that stuff, on some items that you could potentially make. Put that RE factor in here also for when you do your calculations. Obviously, you're going to want at least one good pen. It wouldn't hurt to also have a permanent marker. At least if you're a leader, have that with you, because you may need that for drawing on things for cutting and stuff, where something like this may not work for doing the markings on, especially in the cold. In the cold, ink freezes, but permanent markers have a tendency to keep working even in well below zero. Another item every engineer should have is some type of multi-tool. This particular one here is actually one of the demo tool ones. Doesn't matter the manufacturer. It can be Leatherman, it can be Gerber, SOG, whatever you get a hold of. Try to get a hold of a decent quality one if possible. This should be on your belt, on your pants at all times. And if you can fit a pouch on your TA50, on your gear, so that you can have it on the outside, go ahead. A lot of these do have little, see if I can find it on this one. Little hole that you can run a lanyard through to dummy cord it to you. Another item that you probably should have inside a butt pack, one spool of tripwire, because you never know when this is going to come in handy. This was engineer standard when I was in the military, and it transfers over. A roll of electrical tape. This should always be on your equipment, on your body armor, on your load-bearing vest, whatever you have, so that you can access this quickly You don't have to dig this out. This should be hanging on the outside of your stuff so that you can grab it and use it quickly during missions, like tying in for initiation systems, priming charges and stuff. Another thing I recommend is some type of carabiner. Get the metal one, get a good sized one. If you're in the military, you're an engineer, you know why. This comes in handy for running your line mains. Maybe I'll go over to battle drill on that someday. I recommend a crimpers. Have this on your gear. Some type of wire cutters. I personally prefer the little diagonal cutters here over the linemen's, which is what you'll actually find inside your demo kit. They have the linemen's pliers. The reason I don't like this, it's not as easy to cut individual wires with this as it is with the diagonal plier. If I had a piece of electrical wire, I could show you, but with this, it's easier to cut one side of the wire, one strand, and then flip it over, cut the other strand, where with this, you really can't do it. You end up cutting both strands at the same time, which can cause problems, potentially connecting a circuit, setting off electrically initiated improvised explosive devices. You should always have some type of knee pads. I know these are not knee pads, these are elbow pads, but you should always have a good set of knee pads that fit. When you're on the move somewhere, you're doing missions, those knee pads need to be up over your knees. When you're back at a base camp, you're resting, you're done, you're not moving around. We used to drop them down to just over our boots, had the hard shells hanging off to the outside or to the front. You just loosened up the straps, drop them down. That way, if you had to put them on quickly, you could just go down, grab them, pull them up, strap them back into place. Now we're going to go more into your rucksack items I recommend. If you can get a hold of it, some type of mine probe. There are sectional ones that were used in Afghanistan that could go up to a couple meters in length. If you can get a hold of those titanium ones, hey, go ahead, do it. They cost a lot of money. Sometimes you can find old style fiberglass ones like this. Make sure whatever mine probe you get is non-ferrous, so it will not react to a magnet. So if you have a magnetically initiated mine, something like this will not set it off. The titanium ones will not set it off. Aluminum ones will not set it off. But the really old steel ones, those potentially would. Now I recommend every militiaman and every soldier, every Marine, carry at least 10 sandbags. If you're an engineer, 20. Get these. Keep, preferably get the plastic ones like this, the nylon ones. Roll them up. Put them on the top of your rucksack, either underneath the flap or in some type of stowage pouch. Why 20 for an engineer? Well, because you have more knowledge in field fortifications, and whatever infantry you support, they're going to try to get you to build the better ones for them, and you're going to need more sandbags than what they have on hand. So you got your 10 minimum for yourself, and then 10 additional. And definitely if you're a leader, but this was kind of a standard, every engineer and a lot of units I was in had to have a copy of FM 5-34 engineer field data. You can find some that are camouflage. This is pretty common. This is generally the layout, what you've seen in the 90s up into the early 2000s. This particular edition says 2005. This one says 2003. This is probably a civilian produced one. But get a hold of FM 5-34. For time period, I'm going to say at least 1980s through to the most current as possible, with obviously try to get the most current edition as possible. These are not great big ones. These are actually smaller ones that were designed to get shoved inside your rucksack and carried with you. They can get pretty thick. Early 90s, 1980s, they were probably about yay thick. Once we got into the 90s, we were doing peacekeeping, mine clearance in Bosnia and stuff. they grew to about this thick. But get as current of an edition as you can. This gives you information on field fortifications, mine clearance, mine emplacement, obstacles, just tons of information. You got weight classifications for bridging, how to determine it, you know, planning your obstacle belts, planning your obstacle zones, all that stuff is inside these books. This is the Engineer Bible. This is a must-have for every engineer. Get it. So there you go. These are some of the items I recommend as an engineer. For militia, you're a light engineer, it wouldn't hurt. If you could do it, if you're not overloaded, get a D-handle shovel also and strap it to the top of your rucksack. It'll come in handy if you don't have access to some type of toolkit with long-handled shovels. Another thing that's also highly recommended, every engineer needs to have is some type of leather work gloves, not just something like these shooting gloves. You need actual thick leather work gloves. They come in handy when you're doing any type of obstacle work, any type of field fortification work. It doesn't have to be the military issue ones that cost 40, 50 bucks a piece. You know, a lot of us used to just go to the gardening centers each spring and we would get a new pair of gloves for the year. You know, only cost you a couple bucks. So there you go. That's my recommendations. Gear you should carry as an engineer. Doesn't matter if you're active duty or reservist, National Guard or militia. If you're militia, definitely get as much of this as you can. Now, for all my engineer brothers in the Patriot and militia movements, always remember, essayons.